Hello, good evening. Hello. Risa. Are you Risa? Lovely to see you here. Hello. Good evening. A very warm welcome to all of you to Mocha Moments. As always, we will wait for a few minutes for a few more people to join in. Till then, enjoy the music. Hey Lapdiang. Good evening and a very warm welcome to Mocha Moments. A very warm welcome and hello to all the first timers joining in. We'll wait for a few minutes for more people to join in. Am I audible? Can you hear me clearly and the music? If somebody can just give a thumbs up. Thank you, Risa. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Lapdiang. Is there a connection issue at your end, Jenny? Hi Dibali, good to see you here, good evening. Welcome to Mocha Moments. So for all you first timers, Mocha Moments is my book reading session which I host weekly, and I've been reading excerpts from novels, short stories, sometimes poems. And I do invite guests once in a while. We have a very, very special guest today joining me, and I'm truly privileged to have her with me. And you will get to see who she is a little later. I'm just waiting for more people to join in, because there are people who have already committed to join today. So I'll just wait for some more time for them to join. Hey Rima, good evening. Hi Irina Mongkung. Just a few more minutes and then we'll start. Hi, I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name. Is it Carrier? Carrie? Things are more or less the same here, no change really. All right, so a very good evening to Mocha Moments. For all the first timers, and I know there are quite a few here. As I said, this is a weekly book reading session which I host, and today we have a very special guest with me. I will introduce you to her and to another guest who is not going to be present here, but who is, I'm sure, virtually somewhere, and will listen to this recording later. So yes, what are we speaking about today? It's a very special theme, and it's a very special reading that's going to happen today. Now, someone said that folklore gives us a dialogue with storytellers from the past, right? All of us have listened to folklore, to folk tales, to myths, to legends as kids, right? We've sat around our grandparents, maybe parents, aunts, uncles, and we've listened to many such stories, and I'm sure all of them are alive and fresh in our minds. We've made our children listen to them. We've bought books based on all these folklores and myths. So it's very much a part of our lives. And these, in fact, are part of almost every ancient culture that we have, and they belong to our history, they belong to our culture, right? But sometimes do we wonder whether folklore is a remnant of the past world? Or is it long forgotten? Is it still a part of our lives? Right? In a very, very digitized, rational and logical world, where there is an algorithm for everything, is there space for folklore? Maybe we need to find that magic, even if we are not into reading folklores or folk tales. And how do we find the magic? The magic lies in retelling those folklores, in retelling those tales. In fact, A.K. Ramanujan, who is one of the very notable folklorists of India, had actually defined a folk tale as a traveling metaphor, which finds a new meaning with each telling. Now, isn't that beautiful? And tonight we will actually see somebody who comes from the land of oral storytelling, who comes from the land of hills. And we will also see how folklore finds its place in poems, in poetry, right? Oral folklore, oral storytelling is not documented anywhere. These are passed on from generation to generation, word of mouth. And now we'll see how these are passed on in the pages of our books, our literature, our poetry collections. So I will start today by telling you all about this book, which I bought last month. And that is how I came to know one of the guests who is not here today, but who is my guest. So this book is called Many Sides of Many Stories, and it's written by Esther Syiem. Now, let me tell you a bit about her. Esther Syiem is a bilingual writer. She teaches English literature at the Northeastern Hill University in Shillong. She has been involved in the study of Khasi folk literature for more than a decade now. Her publications include 3 volumes of poetry, a play in Khasi. She's also a member of the National Editorial Collective of the PLSI and has edited volumes entitled The Languages of Meghalaya. She has translated a Khasi folktale and a folktale from Arunachal Pradesh, which was published by Tulika. And she has a book of short fiction called Memoir in Water Speaks the Waumkra. So that is Esther Syiem. Now, I got to know her because I bought this book last month, and I absolutely fell in love with this book. And today I start this session by reading a poem written by her, an extremely poignant poem, and it's called To the Rest of India from Another Indian. To the rest of India from another Indian. We have no Rama, no Sita, no Arjuna, ours are differently named. No wars were fought on grounds in Kurukshetra and Lanka. Ours were in camouflage, up the stony tracks of the antelope, down impossible ravines and through impassable jungles. We've no temples, none to be purified, with litanies and incense to leaven crimes of the night. No one river too sacred to purify impurities. None of our gods bear god names like yours. But if you should twist your tongue around ours, as we learnt to twist ours around yours, you'll get a taste of webbed legends. Earth gods and sky deities, nymphs and elfin dwarfs, that winnow soles and scale bamboo leaves rinsed intestines in running streams. Icons that died for a love that endorsed a freedom uninhibited as our wild mountain herbs. Shillong and Nangli, and how we swallowed our written script. Stones that eat, then rivers that fly, talking tigers and tiger men. An itchy monster itching to be scratched, a rebellious stag pounding for freedom, and the inconsolable dirge of a mother. Is Nam still alive? And the tiger and the toad? Are our sibling mountain gods still at war with each other? And our translucent caves, let me tell you, that rig our underworld worlds, stitch in the ancestor who sanctified the speaking tongue. Would you then even care to enter, tongue-twistingly, into the spoils of our speaking wealth? So that is Esther Syiem's To the Rest of India from Another Indian. What a beautiful, beautiful poem. So I had the privilege of sending a few questions to Ma'am Syiem, and she did send her responses to me since she couldn't come here and have a chat with me. So I will read out her responses now. My first question to her was, as an English professor and a bilingual writer, what do you think most well-written poems have in common? Hi, Yashasvi. So she replies, as an English professor, I would look for uniqueness in the images, symbols, and choice of words in poems. Also, I would expect the writer to have been able to distill personal feelings to such an extent that a degree of objectivity is reached in order to communicate a certain universal essence of what is being written about. As a bilingual writer, I realize that much of our regional literature, if they are to survive on their own terms, must be true to their own poetics. Literature, especially from Northeast India, is defined by the spirit of orality, and this manifests itself in many ways. Storytelling through poetry, chants, repetitive lines, etc. Like the African American storyteller, the poet, the chronicler, the indigenous artist all over the planet who struggles to remain true to the poetics of his or her literature. My next question to her was, do you think that the traditional myths and folk tales are vital components of our culture? And her response is definitely. We have been shaped by them in many ways by one, our mothers and grandmothers, sometimes fathers and grandfathers, in my time at least. Before the TV became an appendage to daily life, the quiet time in the evenings was always filled with stories from the past. Stories about a mysterious past that left our imaginations wanting more. The interweaving of myth and legend, religious stories and parables, within our lives as children is vital because our identities are honed on something much more than daily living. There is always a sense of something out there, the unforgettable unseen that follows a logic of its own, that exerts influence upon us and subsequently upon culture. A society that has no stories to tell is a sad society indeed. And my last question to her was, for the next generation of poets, how important do you think it is to imbibe what you do so beautifully in your poem? That is to weave your own identity, roots, rich cultural heritage, your language, and make it real. Her response. It is so important to imbibe the past. I always remember what Mamang Dai writes in one of her essays, that these stories escape all of us until we are old enough or reach an objective distancing from them, that we begin to turn back to them and allow them to shape us. I think every writer has his or her own journey to make, and these stories adapt with the changing times, providing a repository rich enough for anyone to reach into. And writers are people who are so vulnerable that they must constantly seek the unseekable, backwards and forwards in time to allow confrontations to take place within. Those, I would say, would be the moments of reckoning when questions get raised and answers don't come. But the seeking must take place at all cost, through dangerous minefields that are waiting to explode. These explosions await every writer. What beautiful words. And I'm so glad that I got these responses from Ma'am Esther Syiem, and I hope you enjoyed that too. These are just a few questions I asked her because I don't have so much time. Now is the time to call my very, very special guest, Lapdiang Syiem, Esther Syiem's daughter. Let me invite her, and then I will introduce her. Hey,
Hello.
good evening, Lapdiang.
Good
How are
evening.
you?
I'm good. I'm well. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Wait. Yeah, I can hear you, but it's a little. If you can maybe come closer,
Yeah, let
or
me
maybe
just
put on. Yeah, maybe put on the earplugs. That will help.
yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'll just ask the rest of the people, the viewers here. Can you all hear Lapdiang clearly? Me and her both. If you can just give a thumbs up so that we know that you can hear her clearly. Okay, all right. Thank you. So a very warm welcome to you, Lapdiang. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you as well.
And welcome to Mocha Moments. And
Thank you.
let me first introduce you to the audience and let them know who you are and your background. So Lapdiang Syiem is a graduate of the National School of Drama, New Delhi, and the Commedia School, Copenhagen, Denmark, where she specialized in physical theatre. Based in Shillong, she writes and performs her own scripts and those written by her mother, inspired by Khasi folktales, myths, and legends, adapting them into a contemporary context. She was a recipient of the Studio Residency 2019 awarded by Pro Helvetia, Swiss Arts Council. She has been part of a research project called the Welsh Khasi Cultural Dialogues and has performed in India and in Wales. And in fact, she has performed in many other countries too. She has delivered lectures within India and abroad, along with conducting theatre workshops. So there you are. That's Lapdiang Syiem for you. A very, very special person with a very, very special form of art that she practices. Right? So we will start. We will chat with her a little later. We will start today's session by a poem which is written by her mother. And it's a poem which she will definitely tell us a little more. But whatever little I know, it's a retelling of a Khasi folktale, a very, very famous folktale. It's called U Sier Lapalang. And Lapdiang will be introducing you to the poem, and we both, in fact, will do the reading. So, Lapdiang, would you want to tell us a little bit about the poem, and then we can start maybe?
Yes. Thank you, Mahua, for the introduction, and it's good to be here. I'm really glad to be able to talk about, first of all, of course, my mother's work, who is such an inspiration to me, and also get into how I have gotten into collaborations with her poetry, with her writings. So this poem that we're going to look at today, Usir Lapalang, is actually a very it is a retelling of a very famous folk tale. We also have a song associated with it, actually. And just a brief is the story is about a very tragic story of a stag and his mother. And they both live down in the neighboring plains. And the stag sees, you know, the hills, the Khasi hills, and there's a particular wild herb that he wants to get the taste of, and it's called Ujangau Jathang. So he climbs up, he tells his mother, he leaves his mother behind, climbs up the hills, and never returns. And his mother worries and goes in search of him. And she senses that something could have gone wrong. And as she goes up the hills and she reaches the top, and she sees that her son has actually been shot dead by hunters. And she sees his body being carried by the hunters, and it's a very tragic moment because she lets out this lamentation, and she cries and she mourns for her dead son. And it was so tragic that even the hunters who carried his body heard when they heard the sound, they stopped dead on their tracks, and they listened to this, and they realized, and from this, it touched them so much, and they realized what they had done. They realized the loss that has what this mother, the deer, is going through. And this story, the significance of this story actually is that it's said that it's a story that taught the Khasis how to grieve, uh, how to mourn. So yeah, that's what it
Beautiful.
is about.
So, should we start?
Yes.
Okay. So I will be reading just the first bit of the poem, and the rest will be read by Lapdiang. Usier Lapalang, a trilogy of the stag's border crossing. Into the abundance and plumage of those hills, for redolent greens of crisper relish that I already knew in my heart even before my body followed. Gently nosing in on icy waterfalls, Ujangyu Jathang and crawling tendrils of luscious vines that loop around and startle me. This border cross into scented tracts of offbeat grassy spaces beat at tandem with the hoofbeats of my heart that gauge the thumping impatience of my dash into those climbs. That brings me face up with the saltish leaks of earthy mountain roots and succulence in my palate. Aroma of pine wafting down from the pinnacles of cliff-top edges and the rush of vintage streams that course my being and give me leaves to crash through wild undercover of thorny thistle and slashing bramble that amorously slaps my hide, that hides me from the curious eyes of watchers watching me. Steer my dreams through several different shapes with antlers, my virility, hooves, my agility to trample on everything that cramps my coverting, and my rutting search in those virgin lands that call me in a voice I strangely understand. Your dirge, my mother, your searching grief mounts up to slice those rarer mountain climbs, that my bucking angst has freed me from the ditches of your stagnant water table in the flatlands of our home. I never meant to hurt you, May. I didn't mean to die upon these hills. But with the deathly Nampliang in my heart, all I even want is the nibble and the snort at the aromatic herb and the slurp of crystal dreams.
Mother's dirge. If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times never to flirt with dreams of border crossing. The border cross should never have been. Didn't you know that flatland and highland have no meeting point? Though rivers here be flat and waters never stressful, yet grain and grass there is for you, my son. A plenty for those of your kind, for you to thresh and stomp, for your pleasure alone within secure confines of home. Why did you ever leave? Didn't you know that your life here is bound by expanses that vouch for your safety? Why go into lands off bounds and unknowing, knowing fully well I would never want you to step into them? Though I'm fearful, I must go on to find you. My senses are taut with refusal. Yet I'll follow the trail of your hoofprints and the whiff of your body in the wind. I know they watch me as they did you, my son. In my mind's eye, I can see you alive, still alive and prancing. So I rest for a while to graze on my tears and memories, hoping that despairing hope for you and for me. But then, the plunge, the strike, the slash, the cut, I feel it all. Your sudden painful jerk breaks me, hurts me, cuts me all at once. I mourn, I wail, I cry, I weep for you, my only son. I start, I stumble, I start again. I run headlong as far as these old legs can carry me, for I know, as all mothers know, I just know where you are. I see you trussed upside down like the lowly pig to be feasted upon before my very eyes. My son, was this the freedom that you sought? Was it for this you forsook everything you had? I thought you had it all, my son. But I had to watch you leave us all, to find it was dull familiarity that drove you off from me. Into this moment shall I pour my grief then, that even they may know how a mother feels. Even they may also learn to grieve from underlings like us from across the borderlands. My son was never warrior like them, nor usurper of their land. Though headstrong, he only wanted the nibble and the bite and the taste of new dreams. Will you grudge him even that? They watch me, watch them feast. They don't violate my grief. My wailing shall return, no closures for me, none for them too, till they too learn to grieve. Warriors Recall. Release the dogs, you. Set them on him. Track him down, draw him out, let fly the arrows. We corner him, we trap him, we kill him. Go, man, go. Aim your Lapdiang at his heart. He's the intruder, man. First we mob him, then kill him. But careful with the antlers now, our biggest trophy to be displayed yet. If we don't get him, how do we answer to our women? What stories for our children? Dialogue with him, you say? What dialogue? We're warriors, damn it. We don't dialogue, you idiot. Do Khasis dialogue? Our homeland, Kari Snam, must be defended at all costs. You there, idling bystander, hesitating bystander, fussy bystander, bystanding bystander, plunge, plunge into the roll of drumbeats, and the dogs baying and barking that confuse the beast and pump our hearts with thumping recollections of raging hunts coursing victorious in our blood. let truth be told. We shall never back down. Truth be told further, when it was all over, when it was all done, when drumbeats had ceased and barking dogs fallen silent, when fire had turned to embers, this was how one among us spoke what had lodged unspoken in our hearts. A wizened warrior who'd seen the sun and moon before us spoke. After we'd killed Usir Lapalang, severed his antlers, skinned him for the feasting and quartered him for distribution, even as we downed our victory with yeasty swill from our hills, even as we drank to victory, we remembered how we were catapulted into bewildering confusion by a caterwauling wail never heard, never known, never encountered in these hills before. It seemed the instant the Nampliang found its mark, she knew. She knew he'd been forcefully put down and plucked out from her. We never could tell. Even as we watched her, loping blindly in the whistling wind, stumbling for the sun whom she knew had been drawn and quartered. It jolted us and dampened the incessant drumbeat in our blood, spilt into us and churned a turmoil that confused us like the prey we'd hunted down. The wizened one recalled how it lined up expectant of vengeful comeback that would lead to a war that we were so sure we'd win. We desired to end it there and then. Shoot it, block it, erase it from our memories altogether. But how were we to know that this wailing incantation was wont to stay within our borders? How were we to deal with this wailing incantation that challenges us to dialogue across borders, even now? Thank you.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. Beautifully written and beautifully read. Thank you so much. Really, thank you, Lapdiang. That was absolutely moving. Very, very moving.
Thank
so
you.
I actually wanted to ask you, the first thing is, this is a poem which you have performed before, right? You did tell me that you have performed before. So you could just tell us what is the kind of performance that you do. Now yours is a very, very unique art that you follow, right? So if you could just tell us what is that art that you follow, because it's absolutely new, the whole idea of physical theatre. So if you could just tell us a bit about that, and then I will move on to other questions.
So basically, well, I've been trained at the National School of Drama as specialized in acting. But for me, I think when I was there, I wanted to move, just beyond words and dialogues, and I wanted to study the body, the expressive body. And that led me to join the school in Denmark, in Copenhagen, which was a school of physical theatre. And there, we experimented. It was a lot about how do you use your body as a storyteller? How do you communicate, where you're not dependent only on the words that you speak, but you work on the eyes, you work on the expressions, you work on your hands, your feet, your limbs. So it's a very, it's sort of, your whole body sort of goes into expressing, becoming a storyteller. And so yeah, that's a bit about what that is.
That's wonderful, because it's absolutely new to us. I mean, some of us, I'm sure, have never heard of this term called physical theatre. So, and using your body as a part of, or your body language as a part of the art. So tell me, what do you think is the art of storytelling? The storytelling like your mother has done, where she has, retold the folklore, the folk tales, and also she's written on other stuff also. You are retelling in your own way. You are using physical theater to retell. So what do you think is the art of storytelling? It differs from person to person. It depends upon the artist, on how they are doing it.
Yes, I think I would like to believe that we're all storytellers in our own way, and as my mother says, we have this repository of our memories, of our experiences, and how we tell these stories. Where whether it's through writing, through poetry, through body, through music, uh, so through dance. There's so many ways by which we are storytellers, and for me, storytelling, growing up here in Shillong, and being privileged to have my grandmother with me alive, for until I was grown up, where we would sit around and we were always told stories, and it was from that very young age when I realized the power of storytelling,
Absolutely.
and there's something so you know and as you, as a storyteller as well, you have your own voice on how you want to tell the story. There's agency in saying, I am a storyteller, this is my story, this is what I have to share. So yeah, that I think that what storytelling is to me.
I mean, is that the reason why you wanted to go to National School of Drama? I mean, or you always wanted to get into the place of acting or theater, or that kind of the zone?
I didn't really know. I grew up being, very shy. I remember my mom calling me a wallflower, and I studied here, was very shy, and was even afraid of the sound of my own voice. And
Okay.
I went to Chennai, and I actually studied. I did my bachelor's in biotechnology, botany and
Okay.
biotechnology,
Something absolutely
which
different.
yes, completely, completely different. But um, somehow in Chennai, I discovered the stage, and I discovered that if I could push harder, I had a voice, and I think that freedom to find that space, or just that feeling of like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's humbling, but at the same time, it's also so powerful to find the space where I suddenly felt free to express myself. So yeah, with my doing my bachelor's, that's how I got interested. I wanted to, I was involved in the college plays. I was involved in amateur theatre society, and that's when I thought I wanted to pursue this professionally, and became my passion. So I haven't looked
But
back
did that surprise your
since.
mother that now you're into college
Yes,
plays and theater societies?
it did. Yes, it did. She wasn't willing to. She said she wanted to come down herself in my third year to watch me perform. She said, I need to see, you know, how are you, is this really what you want to do? Because there was no one to guide me. And everyone thought, if she joins NSD, she becomes an actress, what is she going to do? Like join Bollywood? Is that what she's going to do? So that was the first thing that came to people's minds. And yeah, so.
Okay. What I wanted to now know is, you then you did your NSD, you went to Denmark, you did all that, and then you came back to your roots. You came back to pursue your passion in your hometown in Shillong, and you weaved in your roots, your culture, in the art that you were giving to the audience, right? I mean, it's a unique thing. I mean, admirable, really. Kudos to you for that. But what I would like to know is, was it daunting at that point to step into something absolutely new, where you are weaving in, sort of braiding, your culture into, with the passion that you followed in Delhi and Denmark and wherever? So was it daunting? Was it, before you took the first step, did you know that people are going to accept it so readily in Shillong, or even otherwise?
No, I came back not knowing. I came back knowing that I wanted to come back, and that I just wanted to come back home and experiment. And I also knew that, what I was bringing, with physical theater and the style or the way I was performing was something completely new, something completely different, experimental. And I didn't, and it was very scary, I didn't know if people would accept it, first of all, were they willing, would they understand it, but more than that is, would they accept it, would they, be like, okay, she's come back with all these strange ideas and all these, newfangled ideas. What is she coming here for? Why is she coming back? So there were a lot of questions and a lot of challenges as well. Yeah, but I think, for me, I just wanted to, I wanted to come back, and I'm so in love with what I do, so I couldn't stop
Absolutely.
doing it. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that shows, the passion is important. And the fact that you were so
Yes.
passionate about it, I think that helped you sort of go past the fear and the apprehension of starting something new, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what do you think about these retellings of folklore and myth and legend that you're doing? I mean, how relevant do you think it is for generations now, for the new generation? You know,
I think, for me, as I continue to look at this, all these folk tales that we have, this folklore that we have, the legends, the myths and legends, um, with the retelling, the way I have looked at them is also that it's important to also, the reinterpretation is also important. Um, and when I describe my work, I say that I draw my content from this folk literature that we have, but at the same time, my work as an artist is, how do I adapt, or how do I reinterpret these tales to make them, for a contemporary audience, for a contemporary setting.
so
And with the
contemporizing the whole issue and making it,
Yes,
relatable to the
relevant,
audience. Yeah.
yeah, relatable and relevant, with the issues that we're talking about, addressing the society as it is today. And that's how my process has been with
Okay.
these stories.
So besides retelling of your mother's work, your mother's retelling of the folktales, you also work on other areas, as in maybe issues which matter to you regionally or even globally. Maybe other issues like climate change, or I'm just giving an example. Do you work on those kind of issues also?
Yes, definitely. I've been doing, my work has revolved around, one is, addressing the coal mining incident,
Okay.
the coal mining issue, for example, that we have here in the hills. And it had to do with an incident where the miners were trapped inside these coal mines, and they couldn't be taken out, they couldn't be rescued, or they weren't rescued. And for me, looking at issues of the environment uh, is very important. It's very urgent, I feel. It's something we should all be concerned about. I've also looked at issues concerning sexual violence and abuse. Worked with a team, a young team here from Shillong, where we've devised a piece where we've addressed what sexual violence and abuse is. And also, with I remember doing again a performance of a famous folk tale called Nok Kalikai, which is the story of this woman who jumps down
On the
a
waterfall.
waterfall.
Yes, I've read
Yes,
about this.
makes the waterfall. Yeah. That was the first adaptation that I did when I got back home in 2016. And that really looked at the issue of, domestic violence. I wanted to address domestic violence, being, a single mother, and also looking at the point where she reaches this point where she says, I jump, I take my own life, and why did she jump? What was that moment that made her take this plunge? So various issues that I think for me, it starts off from a very personal connection, or the way I see things changing or happening, and how, as an artist, how would I use my voice to speak about these issues? So yeah.
So there is a poem, I think, in this book, which is also on the coal mining thing. Is it Welcome to Jantia Hills? Is that the one?
Yes.
That's the one, right? Because I remember reading that. All right,
Yes,
all right.
yes.
Now, what I wanted to know from you is something different. When I read that poem, to the rest of India from another Indian, written by your mom. Now that is written by her words. But tell me, is there a difference in which your earlier generation looks at the rest of India and your generation does? You know, I'm referring to the poem and saying this here. Is there a difference in perspectives?
Um, yes, I think with my generation, a lot of us have moved out of home.
Absolutely.
A lot of
That's what
us
I
have
was going to
moved,
say. Yes.
uh, and we've sort of moved, migrated out of our own states into other parts of the country, looking for work, for education. So there's been a lot more of intermingling uh, that's happened. But at the same time, I feel there's been a lot of racism also uh, that has happened, challenges that have come with moving out. Uh, and perhaps, yeah, perhaps that's one of the, if I were to compare, my mum as well had studied in Delhi, uh, lived outside, of course, and she decided to come back. I think with my generation, or with our generation, we're contemplating, if we come back, what are the opportunities here? Will we be able, what do we come back to? So there's a lot more of out migration that's happening. And yeah, coming back home there's this question of what are we coming back to? What are the opportunities? Life is different now, being in the city as compared to being back here. So yeah, don't know if
So you do find people from your generation moving out more often than not, compared to earlier days?
yes, definitely. I feel there's a lot more of people, yeah, this generation really moving out. Travel has also become so much easier,
Yeah,
and connected. We're also so much more connected. So yeah.
fabulous. We're down to our last 5 minutes. So my last question, and here I want you to, give a message to the next generation. So if you were to give a message to the next generation of how important do you think is to step out of your comfort zone and to try out new possibilities, new ventures, try out new things and not feel, scared to take that step. Just a message to that generation because that is so important. Instead of following the same routine path, it's so important also to think out of the box, do things which are your passion, which are your interest areas. So how just a message for the next generation from you.
Um, yes, so as you've said, I completely agree. It's my life has always been, to move out of my comfort zone, to challenge this box that I'm placed into. And what's important is, I think, to keep reassessing this comfort space. Maybe you move out the first time and you get comfortable with that space, and you already feel good in that space, and you already feel you've owned that space. But I think it's important to question, to keep questioning, uh,
Absolutely.
and not be afraid, to challenge. I think once we get too comfortable, then as an artist, you know, you lose that sense to create something different. You lose that excitement of saying, you know, I keep questioning myself and saying, where am I at this moment? What do I have to say at this moment? And am I just repeating something from the past that people are bored of hearing, or am I questioning, you know, structures? Am I looking for new ways to express myself? Am I looking
Absolutely.
for ways of for stories that are relevant to the times we are in?
And I think
So
challenges make you more creative, right?
yes, definitely, yeah. I think, you know, that push is there, and it's important to constantly reinvent ourselves. Otherwise, we just get, yeah, we
We
just
stay
get
in that
boring.
plateau.
Yes, yeah. Although
Oh,
I live
lovely,
in a
lovely.
plateau, yeah, I mean, just a joke. Shillong is a plateau, so
Absolutely. But what a lovely place. I haven't been to Shillong in almost, I don't know, maybe 35 years, and I would love to go back. And me and my friends keep talking of when do we go to Shillong? And, so we keep dreaming of going to Shillong. So, yes, someday, I'm sure. And
yeah.
would you like to show the mask that you use in your performance? Do you have it next to you?
Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted the
So
viewers to see, the physical theater that Lapdiang does. She uses a lot of these masks. So, yeah.
yeah. So this is actually a mask that I had made.
You have made?
And yes, it was part of a mask making workshop.
Fabulous.
We work a lot. Yeah, it's made out of paper mache, but it
Okay.
has a wooden, this wooden finish because of the polish. And it's a mask that
It's absolutely beautiful.
um, yeah, it's an expressive mask. So you have, this mouth and the eyes and yeah.
Can you just lift it up a bit? I can't see the mouth because of the comments. Ah, okay. Oh, wow. I love the expression, that sort of crooked smirk kind of an expression.
Yes, exactly. And I've had a lot of fun playing with this because it gives the opportunity. Your face is completely covered, and we rely so much on the eyes and the face, but
But your
suddenly,
eyes, yes, yes.
it's covered, and you have
It's
the rest of your body
beautiful.
to come alive and make it, yeah. So
So, Laptian, thank you so much. I'm truly, truly honored to have you here, and truly honored to have the words of your mother with us, though she was not with us today, but her book was, her words was. So, thank you so much, Laptian. Thank you. And I'm
thank you,
sure all the viewers enjoyed listening to you and knowing about your story. What a beautiful story, and what a inspiring story, I must say. We need more people like you to sort of think out of the box, go and tread on that new path, and give us such wonderful art. And I'm hoping that you come to Calcutta. I'm in Calcutta, and I do hope that you'll come to Calcutta sometime with a performance, and we'll all go with my friends to
definitely,
watch you. Okay?
definitely,
Thank you,
yes.
and bye bye.
Thank you for this introduction. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. All right, that was Laptiang. I just have about 10 seconds left. So thank you all of you for tuning in, and I'm so glad that all of you enjoyed.